And now on the line is Michelle Murphy. Michelle is a research and policy analyst with Social Justice Ireland, and she is no stranger to this programme on Near FM, and Social Justice Ireland are no stranger to Near FM in general. Michelle, welcome back to the programme.
Thank you very much, Darren.
Michelle, I spoke to you only a few months ago on this programme around the time of the general election. I've spoken to you a few times in the last couple of years, but going back 2 years, I spoke to you about your Social Justice Matters 2023 report. Today, Thursday, the 3rd of April, yourselves launched your Social Justice Matters 2025 report. This is a big question, Michelle, but can you give me a bit of a summary of your new report and how much progress or lack thereof has happened over the last year or so in terms of social justice, do you think?
Oh, absolutely, Darren, and it's on our website, socialjustice.ie, if anyone wants to read the whole report. But look, in terms of, I suppose, the big ticket items that we've spoken about before, in terms of housing, we're not meeting our targets. Homeless figures are rising, the cost of a home to buy is rising, the cost of rent. So going in the wrong direction there. So we've a lot of proposals in terms of modern methods of construction and social housing targets and, making it a government priority. Again, in terms of income and poverty, we've spoken before. If you strip out the cost of living measures, the one-off measures, we're going in the wrong direction there again. Poverty is rising, particularly among older people, which is really concerning. It's gone up by over 60% in the past year. And it shows, a lot of older people, they're on a pension, a fixed income, and, as their, as the cost of electricity or gas or your food, and when that increases, then obviously their money doesn't go as far. Again, in terms of climate, we've seen a slight improvement in emissions in the past 12 months, but we still have a really long way to go. There's only 5 years now to 2030 to meeting the targets. And again, just like looking at health, waiting times are still an issue, access is still an issue, and kind of home health as well as a challenging area as the population ages. More people want home health, require it, but the resources and the hours and the staff aren't really there to deliver it. So I suppose, and then finally Darren, looking at, the money we raise to fund public services. So tax, which I suppose is particularly relevant at the moment when the tariffs that have just been announced by President Trump. We would be very concerned that a lot of our tax take, a large proportion, between 20 and 30 billion, it's very vulnerable in the context of those tariffs, but also changes to the international tax regime, because a lot of it is sort of one-off windfall profits that, aren't sustainable in the long term. And the other two bits are really reliant on our income tax and consumption taxes. Obviously, people are less likely to spend if they're more concerned about rising prices. And, we're at full employment now, so we can't expect more from income taxes if they stay at the level they are. And then if there is an impact on jobs, obviously those numbers will fall, that exchequer figures will fall.
Okay. I don't know how long you're working with Social Justice Ireland, Michelle, and I don't know how long you've been releasing your Social Justice Matters reports every year, but looking at it from a kind of generational point of view, this is a big question, but over the last, say, 10, 20 years, is it a mixed picture, or are things getting better, or are things getting worse, or what's the story, do you think, in social justice?
Well, I suppose looking over the past 10 years anyway, Darren, I suppose it's a mixed picture. So in some areas, things have improved in terms of, just think back 10 years ago, even the employment figures, they have certainly improved. The number of people who were unemployed, that figure has dropped. That's very welcome. We're making progress in terms of broadening out access routes into third level and further and higher education. We've a long way to go in terms of addressing educational disadvantage, but we are making some progress there. But the areas, I suppose, the really sticky areas and the really challenging ones that we're not really making any headway in is housing in particular, reducing poverty substantially and meeting our national targets around poverty reduction. We're consistently failing to meet those in good times and in bad. And I suppose the problem is we've had good times for quite a while now, and we still haven't implemented the policies we need to reduce those numbers. And again, we've had substantial one-off corporate tax revenues for a number of years. That money needs to be spent on one-off measures such as housing, energy infrastructure, or water infrastructure. But we haven't seen maybe the ambition or I suppose the speed in investing that money that one would expect, which means that, overall it is a really mixed bag with those big ticket items that really impact on people, such as housing, and the cost of that drives up wages. It puts pressure on all other areas of the economy. We're not making progress there. And so the progress that we had made in terms of reducing poverty, that's all kind of been wiped out now by the increasing cost of living. So, it's a mixed bag. We're good in some areas, not in others, but the big ticket items we do need to do a bit of work on.
And you're calling for a new I wouldn't say a new social contract, because I don't believe you've ever had one before, but you're calling for a social contract, aren't you, Michelle?
Yes, a kind of a rebalancing, Darren, really, I suppose, putting the common good at the heart of public policy and making sure that the well-being of everyone is improved and that we don't forget those people who are very vulnerable now and who are left behind at the moment. Those people who are living in poverty, the people who are homeless, those who are like on a social housing waiting list, people in low-paid jobs, that we need to, people with a disability who really want to get into employment but face so many barriers, and the people with a disability who face an extra cost of living. So we're saying those people and those things need to be put at the heart of public policy, and we need to be ambitious around our plans to invest and support those people, and also ambitious around having a vibrant and sustainable economy, meeting our climate targets and building a fair society. And to do that, we do kind of need a rebalancing and to look at the social contract and what's expected. How do you improve this? Because it's not delivering for people at the moment. It might deliver for some, but it's not delivering for everyone. And it's not really addressing the long-term challenges that we are facing and that we've faced for some time. So, that's one area we're really asking government to focus on. It's a new government. So to look at how do you rebalance that social contract, put the common good at the heart of policy and support those who are really vulnerable, and to make sure that they're not forgotten as we face economic, social and environmental, I suppose, changes and transformations ahead.
But am I right in saying in Ireland we've never actually had a social contract formally? I'm not sure about other countries as well.
Yeah, no, it's never really I suppose it's the informal thing that we expect as citizens. We contribute. When you're working, you contribute your taxes. When you're a young person, you go to school. And when you become working, you contribute to the state. And then you assume that the state will use that money wisely then to provide school places, to provide the hospitals that you'll need to visit. So it's that give and take. And to make sure, you'll assume that the government will collect enough resources and revenue to provide the things that you would expect. And that means looking at what you prioritise. And if you only prioritise things like economic growth and economic expansion, then other things kind of fall by the wayside. And that's kind of what's happened. A rising tide doesn't lift all boats. That's pretty clear. So we need to make sure that we look at how we can plug the holes in those boats and make sure everyone is lifted up. And that does mean a kind of a rebalancing and an acknowledgement of, what we want the state to provide, what the state needs from citizens, and, how that balance is reached. But, it's always kind of been an unspoken thing. It's never been formal. But I do think, I suppose we are in a time of sort of global instability and turmoil, and it would be good to have some leadership and some vision from government in terms of where the country is going and what they see for future generations.